So thank you very much for your talk on blockchain and its hype. And now we will talk about blockchain and the dream. And it was a good ground setting for everybody who is also relatively new to the field of blockchain and wants to dive deeper into it. Before starting the panel, also, I would like to say that we will keep it more broad level and macro level so that it's interesting and relatable for everyone, and we will use a lot of examples and stories to make our point. Let's do this a little differently in terms of introductions, because I know some of you already very well. And I would like to start. Hi, Bruce. This is
Hi
Diksha.
there.
Hi. So we were just starting with the introductions, and we were thinking we will do it a little differently for this panel. So I would like each of you to please introduce yourself and talk about your relationship with blockchain and what you particularly do in that area, because I know blockchain in itself is very diverse, and for some people it's decentralized solutions, some people it's only focus on data, only on privacy. So let's start it like this, and I will go from here. So we'll start with you, Silvan.
Great. Hi everyone, my name is Silvan. I do a couple of things with blockchain. The first thing is that I have a small consultancy for privacy, GDPR compliance for technology companies, and we deal with quite a few blockchain projects, which is a very interesting challenge most of the time. The other thing that I do is that I'm the president and founder of a non-profit association here in Berlin called BigchainDB. And BigchainDB promotes and basically positions Berlin as a blockchain hub, or blockchain capital, as we sometimes sneakily call it. We also connect the ecosystem players here in Berlin in that sense. So those are my multiple relations with blockchain.
Okay, and then the next, according to me, is Bruce. So Bruce, if you could introduce yourself with your relationship with blockchain.
Yeah, I joined the blockchain space in 2013 after over a decade building banks around the world. And in doing that work around the world, it was a couple of things that I noticed was that financial access wasn't available to everybody, and that there was this the trend that people wanted to start controlling their data. So in 2013, I started a company with two other co-founders to try to give people back control over their intellectual property. 7 years later, we're at a company called Ocean Protocol, which is at the intersection of blockchain, AI, and data, and has a public token as well.
Okay, thank you. And Irene?
Yes, hello everyone, how do you do? My name is Irene, and I started my relationship, so to speak, with blockchain in 2017 when I wrote my legal thesis about implementing blockchain technology into energy transition. And that turned out to be so fascinating that I stayed on the topic, and by now I am part of the German Blockchain Association, where I'm serving as General Secretary, as well as the International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications, which is a mouthful, and we abbreviate it to INATBA, where I'm serving as co-chair for the working group Energy. And so that brought me here, and next.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just heard me. My name is Oliver Krause. I co-founded Untitled Inc. Think Tank and Ventures with a few friends back in 2017, because we were all fascinated by this technology and thought then we should dive deeper and understand what are actually the potentials here to make it work in reality. We did a number of consulting projects, and for me personally, my blockchain moment was a conversation with back then the CEO of Bosch, Volkmar Denner, who was very bullish about it, and this was for me, with a background of 25 years in consulting, my blockchain moment, and now I founded also another company in that space.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Melanie Mohr. I'm the founder of Warm Protocol. I actually coming out of 20 years of media, marketing and mobile technology. and discovered blockchain end of 16 and started diving deeper in 17, but was actually really pushed into the space by teenagers using a mobile application that I'm also the founder and CEO of, called Yay, and they were asking for tokenizing the platform. And I was about, I would say, to create another shitcoin in that time. But thankfully, through the great ecosystem that we have in Berlin and amazing other founders and thankfully friends who are our office neighbors, Polkadot, Gavin Wood, Jutta Steiner, Björn Wagner, through them I learned to do it, hopefully, the right way, and started creating a protocol that we believe can be a good infrastructure technology for the whole advertising and marketing space.
Okay, so it's an extremely diverse panel, and I think we can bring a lot of perspectives on ground with this. And to start with, let's start on a positive note. And Dr. Oliver already spoke about the blockchain, like different milestones in it. But I think if we talk about the positives, what are the 3 achievements, or rather you would say 3 biggest milestones that have been there in blockchain in the last, I don't know, decade? And I would have this open question to all panelists. So probably starting with you.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, one of the key things that blockchain has helped us do, if you take the whole cryptocurrency thing aside, is that it allows players that were previously, or perhaps still are, competition to collaborate in a way. And I think that's a very strong achievement, if you will, of the technology by itself.
And you?
I would say that on one hand it has, taking the digital currency subject aside, Bitcoin, after all, did prove that decentralized ledger technology actually does work. So solving a very long IT issue that has been around the block a couple of years. And I would also say that it's quite surprising how quickly, after demonstrating that the technology does work, an entire ecosystem has sprung up around it, which has brought great people to hubs like Berlin, and has also basically got the governments moving in the direction of digitization, which, let's face it, we all didn't quite expect some 10 years ago. So quite the momentum it has created for itself and for the ecosystem is, I think, a huge achievement considering the short amount of time.
And Bruce, what do you think is one of the biggest achievements?
I think that there's an awareness now of people that they can take back control of their digital.
Sorry, we lost you, Bruce, here. I think it's an internet connection problem. Okay, maybe better. No, we still can't hear you. So maybe we come back after Dr. Oliver and Melanie, yes.
You can leave away the doctor, I think.
Good.
But so for me, I think it's clearly fascinating that we have, let's say, a view or movement has been or is emerging that brings together various disciplines from sociology, from the legal field, from tech, from economy, various industries that, let's say, develop a huge energy to make an innovation happen and bring it into practice. That's basically the key achievement for me.
And for you? Yeah, we can come. Bruce, shall we do a test?
Test.
Yes, absolutely. Good. So we would like you to repeat your answer, please.
Sure. The big achievement that I think we've accomplished in the last 10 years is that people have now an awareness that they can control their digital assets and potentially reclaim their digital sovereignty. Blockchain is accessible to everybody on Earth, and it gives me the hope that over time, the rebalancing of power from the large internet platforms will happen, more towards the power of the individual.
Okay. Yeah, we would love to talk more about that in detail as well, because I think it's one of the most important aspects as well that's affecting a lot of daily lives, I would say. And Melanie?
Well, I think we have now heard already kind of all the achievements and the transformation that is ongoing, but actually I would say we're missing still, I mean, the real broader adoption or the use case, or people still need to understand what kind of advantages this technology has versus the existing platforms in the centralized systems. And this is, I would say now, after this year's DeFi hype that started, we are still swimming in our own soup. And now it's about what kind of project is coming out that is really bringing it to the people. To people who have no crypto knowledge and will not or do not want to understand the underlying technology. So I'm very keen to see that.
So why don't you talk about your own startup in that front? Because I think you are pretty much on the consumer side and solving the problem already. So
well, I wouldn't say we're solving the problem already, but we're now in a very interesting phase of hopefully scaling what we have built. And it is consumer facing because it allows everyone kind of to mine crypto based on existing user habits, which is creating content, viewing content, validating content, rating content. And this is where we believe to show, I mean, we have already shown in existing apps that have integrated the protocol that it works, that people are already earning crypto and interested in it with the micro tests that they are doing, but it's now about scaling the system. And very, very happy we're having now first lifestyle influencers that we kind of converted to work with our products in a new way. And hopefully they will educate their followers and show how the whole protocol is working for their advantage to bring a fairer share into the system for content creators and for audiences.
Okay. Yeah, and we will dive deeper into that as well. But talking about our mission at AsiaBerlin, which is really supporting the startup ecosystem and also getting founders from Asia to start up in specifically Berlin, and telling them that why it is the place if you want to expand into Europe. And we have Silvan from BigchainDB, and we have 2 startups that are from Berlin. And I would really like to dive into why Berlin if you are looking at starting up in blockchain. So what would you say about that, Silvan?
I can start again. I think the and you probably need to take a step back in time to understand where it comes from. That Berlin is so interesting for blockchain in particular. I think much of the Berlin mindset for a long period of time has been very much aligned with the mindset of cryptocurrencies to start with, and then blockchain afterwards. A bit of the creative mind, a bit of the free thinkers, if you want. And I feel that that's also very much needed to get such a scene and to build such an ecosystem that actually works where there are the right people. So right now that's basically converted into access to talent. Many people here that are actually very interested in the technology, very skilled in developing this. Well, it has been said so many times, but Ethereum, for example, much of it has been developed in Berlin. So these are very good examples of why Berlin, and add to that, for example, a great metropolitan city, fairly cheap rents, and all these kind of things make it a very interesting place for these technologies, new technologies in general, but these technologies that need a little bit of a mind shift to work as well.
So in terms of numbers, how many blockchain startups would Berlin have, approximately?
Approximately 100.
Okay.
Of about 225 in Germany, 100 in Berlin. So That makes it fairly strong.
Okay.
The rest is all very much spread out.
All right.
Yeah.
And Bruce, I mean, if you're in Berlin, you pretty much know Ocean Protocol and BigchainDB. So take us through your experience about actually starting up in Berlin and why you would recommend it to entrepreneurs for starting up in the blockchain space and scaling up.
I think Berlin is definitely one of the nodes on Earth for blockchain development. If you look at some of the most technical projects in the world, they come from this region. Even going back to the work that David Chaum did in the Netherlands, it directly led to Bitcoin. It was mentioned, of course, Ethereum, but you also have wildly kind of different solutions like Cosmos, Gnosis, IOTA, Energy Web, and of course, BigchainDB and Ocean, all germinating in Berlin. So the depth of talent is growing. What traditionally we did not have was a deep bench of financial capital. But because of the successes in the crypto space in Berlin, that is coming to Berlin more and more often. There's more and more VC funds. And so you have this convergence of this countercultural streak of the city, which aligns to the values of crypto, as mentioned. You have the deepest tech knowledge and some of the hardest technical projects. And finally, you are getting this capital, which is being drawn into Berlin from all over the world, including Asia.
Yeah. And actually, there are a lot of Asian investors and funds even at the summit tomorrow and day after for Investors Day who are particularly interested in blockchain startups, just FYI, my duty as a moderator to tell everyone. And Melanie, on your personal experience, because you started up in Berlin and you also have an Asian arm to your startup. So how does that dynamics between Berlin and Asia work for you?
Yeah, I'm the founder of the social commerce platform and One Protocol, and actually the social commerce platform is incorporated in Berlin, and so we have built it out of Berlin. One Protocol, we decided to launch it and issue it out of Singapore, and also I have spent quite a big amount of time in Korea and in China because there's also an amazing ecosystem there. Also, our tech staff is kind of decentralized and around the globe, from Asia to Brazil, and of course also some team members are in Berlin. I think that's probably the same for all blockchain companies. They have talent across the globe. It's not only in Berlin, but Berlin is definitely having the right mindset to just be the good seed ground for these kind of ideas and concepts.
So I personally feel that one thing that we hear a lot in our community is that startups who want to come to Berlin and they feel that the regulations they have a hard time with it, and on the other hand, we also see that the government does a lot to support startups, and also blockchain is pretty much on the forefront as one of the strategic pillars. So, Irene, if you could give us some examples on how what are these government initiatives actually, and how have they actually helped startups with some specific examples?
Happy to. I mean, maybe to go against the grain, start with something negative. It is true that Germany is a very regulated, very bureaucratic affair. So for a startup to establish itself, it takes quite a bit of doing. But the interesting thing where blockchain and Berlin are concerned is that we saw surprisingly quickly not just the city government, but the German national government being willing to actually look deeper into the technology. So already in the coalition contract of the current administration, we find blockchain being mentioned. And with the Bundesblock being founded in 2017, we very quickly had a lot of open doors at the Ministry of Economics and the Chancellor's Office, and this has actually led to the public consultation in which I think every single blockchain startup in Berlin and Germany participated in. And that has actually led to one of the first, if not the first, blockchain national strategy, which came out in 2019, last summer. And so that has then led to basically regulation. I think the important thing here is that Germany has served as a bit of a stabilizing ground. So there's the Wild West crypto affairs, which has, of course, created a lot of wealth for some people, but also a lot of uncertainty for investors and for potential consumers. The term shitcoin has been making the rounds. And Germany, taking a proactive stance, actually managed to somewhat stabilize this ground, that you knew, okay, German regulators are behind this, they are working with them. And what we are seeing is, for example, that we are seeing regional sandboxes being actually established by the German government sector. We have one for energy, which is starting out with blockchain support or DLT-supported energy transition schemes. For energy trading, we are seeing consortia being built for self-sovereign identities and the entire blockchain-supported digital identity aspect. And also Germany being one of the, let's face it, larger populations and therefore larger voices within the European Union. Germany has also played a huge part in establishing EBSI, for example, the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure Scheme, and everything that comes under that. We also have the Blockchain Observatory and the Blockchain European Partnership between countries. So all of that is to say that Germany and the European Union have recognized that this is a technology that is not going to go away. Even if the hype passes, the technology itself on the infrastructure layer is going to stay and create new markets, new opportunities, new industries. And here, as has been mentioned, Berlin has attracted the most talent and has become its own hub within Europe. And therefore, we have wildly different nationalities also within the companies that are, and the representatives in the different organizations. And Berlin has always been a little bit the odd one out within the German ecosystem, having been so international. And therefore, it's a very international hub, even though it is centered in Germany. But here, there's been the happy coincidence that actually the government has supported this in a not necessarily nationalistic way, and therefore it has produced very nice synergies for the entire ecosystem, I believe.
So when you say international talent, do you mean international founders or do you mean international teams particularly?
I think all of it. So parity has been mentioned, which is not just Germans, German-founded. Ethereum has been mentioned. All the teams I have been working with in all the blockchain companies and associations I am interacting with, usually, for example, at the current company I'm working at, we are a bunch of 12. We are 3 Germans and the rest is from all over the globe. And that has been the standard in Berlin so far as I know. And the nice thing is that it also takes a little bit away the hurdles about moving to a different ecosystem, different city, different country, different jurisdiction, because I think everybody is speaking English within Berlin, which takes a huge burden off people moving here, and the ecosystem is very self-supportive. So anyone needing funding tips, needing bureaucracy support, all of that is established by now. And that is, of course, a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I'm going to go somewhere, I'm going to go where the infrastructure is in place to give me a warm welcome and make it easy. And so we have lucked out with that in Berlin.
Yes, I think in particular the community is very helpful, the ecosystem is very helpful, and then we also have Berlin Partners, and which is in collaboration with the Berlin Senate for any kind of support in internationalization of startups or Asian founders who are looking at starting up in Berlin. And talking about Asia, yes.
May I just make one quick addition? What has also been a huge factor, even though the Bank of Mittweida isn't headquartered within Berlin, it's close enough, and they were one of the very first local banks which accepted crypto as a security deposit. And that basically having this financial, being able to establish crypto value as a security for a company has made it so much easier for a lot of blockchain companies to actually basically move towards being a proper, legally registered company. And that, I think, has been a huge draw. And Mittweida, which is a very small town with Applied Science University and the federal state of Saxony, has been very active and collaborative with the Berlin ecosystem from the start. And therefore, that, I think, has also been a huge factor.
Okay, we will add it to our list. And talking about Asia, which is like we also have a lot of people from Asia logging in for this panel, and that's one of our focus, as the name suggests. So what are the areas in which we see collaboration and not just competition between Europe and Asia when it comes to innovation in blockchain? Doctor? No, it's not Doctor. Oliver, if you would like to add on that.
Well, the areas of collaboration are certainly, I mean, we, for instance, at Untitled, in this network we founded, we have a few members and colleagues from Asia. I mean, that's, we have Michael, who's based in Hong Kong. He's a professor in finance and working in that space. And so we are in a constant exchange here. I would say that people are, in that space in particular, are more looking at the actual challenge, the problem to be solved, rather than, let's say, their home base. Yeah, we, for instance, as Liquiditeam, we are not incorporated in Berlin, but we don't even have an office. Yeah, we are a fully virtual company. Because we have been officially founded, I mean, we started 1.5 years ago, but officially we had our investment, by the way, also by a collaborative bank, yeah, in June, I think, yeah. This shows you that this whole space is basically evolving, and even though it is still important to capitalize, let's say, on your roots, yeah, because Asian people from India, from China, and so on, they have particular strength and a particular view, let's say, and when you bring that together, you can create exceptional things. I mean, Bruce, for instance, is showing that. Yeah.
But what in terms of innovation and use cases and examples where you feel that I'm not saying who's ahead of who, but where the two parts of the world can learn from each other?
I would say that in Germany in particular, or in Berlin, you have in Germany you have a typical engineering mindset, whereas in Asia you have quite an orientation towards the financial space. The financial perspective is very strong there, and also they are very willing to take a risk, let's say, in that space. Whereas in Germany, it's still, I would say, it's a certain difficulty. You would have a certain difficulty to raise enough capital for a startup. Yeah, it's certainly easier in Asia to get the capital. That's my impression. Yeah.
Melanie was nodding her head, so she definitely has something to say here.
The thing is that any kind of blockchain project that also is inhabiting a cryptocurrency or a token has definitely to look towards Asia, because that was the first crowd that really were the big adopters in cryptocurrencies. I mean, it's Japan, it's Korea, it's China, and meanwhile it's Vietnam and Indonesia and so many more countries. So I would say that was kind of a natural move, that everyone of us somehow was traveling to Asia and looking out for investment, looking out for collaborations and partnerships. Because in Korea you already have 30% of the working force owning crypto, which you don't have here yet. And I think that's currently still the big advantage of Asian markets, this understanding for the value.
Indeed. So is there any specific, I know the elephant in the room is that there are not, we always say in a lot of blockchain talks that, okay, we don't have really use cases to feel very proud about, or I'm not sure if that's what everyone here agrees with, but could you give us some examples of use cases in Asia that you feel they were just completely out of the box when it came to blockchain?
Bruce maybe can also.
So my take on this is, each region has comparative.
Sorry, we lost you again, Bruce.
Try again.
Okay. Say something so we'll be able to know. Okay. So we come back to Bruce in some time, probably. Or we try once more. No.
Okay. But maybe to jump off of what Bruce started to say, that their comparative advantage to the different hubs, I think there is something to be said for that. As has been pointed out, that the investment crowd, the VC and angel investors, are much stronger in the East Asian markets. So what we saw this time, and what I find still quite interesting, is that actually the US slept on it for this once. So Silicon Valley was late to the game, and that meant that you basically, due to former infrastructures and the lay of the land, you had Europe and East Asia going for the newly developing blockchain and DLT markets. And here we saw a lot of, as mentioned, the financial use case saw early adoption, widespread adoption, and a lot of investment in East Asia, particularly Hong Kong was very, very early. And as has been mentioned, Korea and Japan saw small level investors and consumers joining the game quite quickly and early on. And so there was also a lot of regulation happening early. And so what I'm seeing right now, I have to mention, I think that I did my legal thesis in Shanghai, and I also partially grew up in Japan. So that has led to a lot of synergies in that links, just because of the language barrier being lesser there. And what we saw with collaborations between the German and Japanese governments, and also between Berlin startups and Japanese investors, was that there's, as has been mentioned, a good basically comparative advantage. So in Berlin you have the lovely creative chaos of everyone just trying to see what sticks, and so basically a very huge tableau of different use cases, different maturity levels and sophistication of technology for investors to pick and choose from, while in the East Asian markets you had a chance to actually try them on a larger scale, where here there was still basically some broad level trying to figure out the ideal regulation. In the East Asian context, you are allowed to just test. And this has been a jumping off point for both ecosystems, because what we weren't allowed to try in Berlin, we could test out with investor strengths in East Asia, and where East Asia basically trying to find a more sophisticated level to have a broad swept, easy to basically implement regulation for things. Things started to move back into Europe to try to figure that out. And from my, of course, very subjective experience and perspective, it has been a very, very harmonious collaboration between both continents, because both bring exactly the strength the other side lacks, and vice versa.
Right.
Shall we try with you, Bruce, once again?
Yeah,
Perfect.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I can only echo what was just said. I think you could look at it the other way, where different regions look for arbitrage in other areas. So for instance, European and German teams look for financial capital in Asia, where there was a dearth in Germany. Asians, of course, look towards generally see Germany as a place for innovation, deep tech and such like that. And there's no doubt and there's no argument that Asia has positioned itself as a leading region for gathering a frenetic community of crypto enthusiasts, and is the essential market for launches, liquidity, and trading, whereas Europe offers the deepest bench of developer talent. And then, of course, you have regulation acting as a fulcrum, whether a team spends more time in Europe or in Asia.
So there is yes?
Yeah, if I might add one point, I think due to the strong industrial basis in manufacturing basis in Germany, I see at least quite a few activities also of mid-sized companies, the so-called hidden champions, which explore use cases of blockchain in the IoT space, for instance, yeah. And I'm not too familiar with that side, or at least I don't see it that much in China or maybe Japan, yes, but not in China. Yeah.
Yeah, I would second the fact that the ecosystems, basically between China and Germany, the ecosystems are closest together because of the direct investment and interest, and also, as has been mentioned by Bruce, especially the slogan Industry 4.0, which has been the German title for now also the deep tech angle and things like that, has been a huge success in China. And so there's a lot of interest and motivated investors and also just collaborators. While the governmental partnerships between Germany and both Japan and Korea are much closer and just more established by decades of collaboration now. And so there it has become quite easy to just get regulators to sit together, look at their ecosystems and try to figure out what's a good joint approach. And that with then looking at the sizes of the different economies and populations, it has been a good cross-pollination across all those 4 countries, and I agree that Vietnam is now joining the fray. Indonesia, I heard of activity from and in the Philippines, and so it's spreading, the same way it's spreading in Europe. So it's not just Germany, it's also France has an active ecosystem, and Spain is very much at the forefront of things happening around here. And then coming back to the unique situation of Berlin, which is a little bit one capital of Europe that really is European and international in that sense, that you can also say, yeah, I'm moving abroad, but it's a difference. I would say, and Silvan, correct me here, but basically it's a difference saying I'm moving to Germany than saying I'm moving to Berlin, because one is very much basically a certain notion of things, and Berlin is its very own ecosystem.
No need to correct you. Yeah.
Okay, so one as one of the follow-up things from the previous panels we had, where we were talking about AI and we were talking about innovation in AI, and they said that the biggest challenge and the biggest bottleneck in Europe particularly is not just access to data, but knowing how to use data for innovation in AI. And I think that's something that we should really touch upon, because decentralized networks are, and talk a bit about that as well, that how blockchain can particularly solve this problem of organizing the data economy, getting the right data sets, using them in the right way. And I will leave the rest to you to explain, Silvan. Yes.
Right. Yeah, I think what you're heading towards is the 2 flip sides of the coin, yeah. Right? So like if you look at this blockchain as an innovative technology, where that enables a lot of interesting use cases, collaboration, data sharing, all these kind of things, and then there's the privacy aspect. How do you deal with that? I think in general, what I'd like to say about that is that from a vision point of view, it is not so far apart, right? So there's like decentralized technology giving data and control back to people is actually something that is very much in line with what the privacy mindset wants as well. And only the moment that you look at the actual implementations of them, such as blockchain and certain specific blockchain technologies, public ledgers, etc., and at the regulations in Europe called the GDPR, and you and me, we had a long discussion in a podcast about that. Then that's basically the moment when it gets very tricky. More so in the GDPR being very specific about determinations of roles. Someone needs to be in control. There needs to be one central organization or person in control, and blockchain just aims to decentralize most of the time. So there's some of these conflicts that I find very interesting, and you need to think long and hard about in terms of how you solve that for specific in specific circumstances. You want to dig deeper?
Yes,
I can keep going, but
no, I mean, but also I think there are a lot of myths and realities, because people who look at blockchain from I would say from a distance, is that they don't know whether data is, I mean, in simple words, they would say, okay, data is not safe on blockchain or data is safe on blockchain, and they don't realize that there are layers to it, because there have also been cases of breaches of data within blockchain. And if you could talk about that what is the safe area and what is it that people should be careful about?
Right. To summarize in a very short form, I think what you're looking at mostly is to save confirmations of certain facts on a blockchain, right? Then you're normally in a bit of a safe area, and most people would look at hashes right away as a method, if we can get slightly technical. But there are other ways also to store confirmations of facts on blockchains as well, thinking about zero-knowledge proofs, where blockchain as a technology aids to bring that into practice, and quite a few other things that you can look at using blockchain for in order to facilitate that exchange of the proof of certain data, like validity of certain data at certain points in time, existence of certain things at certain points in time, etc. And then I lost my second thought.
You had a very nice example in the podcast about data anonymity, but maybe we don't talk about anonymized data, but just talk about the example where personal data still remains protected. And yeah, like in terms of an example.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, I lost it here.
Okay. So we can come back to you. Yeah. So Ocean pretty much is Bruce working on the new data economy and doing a lot of work in that area in terms of, it's a debatable topic pretty much that blockchain is better than traditional databases. So if you could talk about Ocean's initiative, the new data economy, what is it really about?
I think everybody knows that in the past 30 years, information is becoming concentrated on the platforms. And every startup is also dependent on these kind of internet giants. Blockchain is a technology that can help rebalance this. The pace, the elan, the globalness of the innovation allows blockchain to move faster than almost any other industry in a global nature. This is why it's so important for the world, Asia, Europe, as well as America. And what we saw and what we've been struggling with for 7 years now is to understand how you can use blockchain to give people more control over their digital identity, their sovereignty of their data, etc. And we don't think that this is in any way incompatible with GDPR. In fact, we think that blockchain helps to go to the essence of what GDPR is trying to do. Some people could argue that GDPR, it's a very complicated and potentially flawed regulation, even though its intent is very honorable. The way we think it can be done is using blockchain for various levels, as I think Diksha was saying, was at different layers on permissioning, access control, coordination, as well as certain aspects of storage. You can segment and compartmentalize aspects of data while giving people control and allowing them to financialize it, which is a key thing. If you're not able to put a price on data and apply the tools of the financial system on data, then it stays what it is, which is in essence a dead asset living on somebody's database. And so Ocean Protocol is intended to solve this host of problems and then build a global community around it so that we can keep doing this over time. And our hope is that in 20 years, the individuals have a lot more control over their data and power is rebalanced away from the internet giants towards a certain individual sovereignty over their data.
Yeah, and indeed it's one of the aspects that impacts a lot of colliding aspects of blockchain as well. And I mean, time flies when you're talking about something you like, and we just have like another 5 minutes. I didn't realize that. But we can have it like a rapid fire in terms of one question that also a lot of startups care about, that what does it really take to build a successful startup in blockchain in 2020? And if we could have one line each from all of you to close on this. So this time we'll start from Melanie. Yeah.
Well, just hearing again and very excited what Bruce and Ocean is building. For me, still the biggest issue is making all the people aware that there is a problem. I mean, we have, I think, I hope you all have seen the latest documentary, The Social Dilemma. And I'm sometimes wondering, after Cambridge Analytica, after The Social Dilemma now out, I mean, still so little is happening. So, I mean, the awareness inside everyone that there is something wrong and that I should own my data, what responsibility am I willing to take it over again, etc. There are so many things that we need to solve and to make it as easy to use as possible, because convenience cannot be underestimated. This is why we're using all these tools, because they are so convenient, they are so customized to us, and we love it already. So how to get back to or how to create this awareness, and I think this is what the success will make or break all of our products. If we are not getting to this point of making people aware that this move is really for their advantage for the future.
Oliver?
And I would add to that, this is true for any technology solution or any product or service. There has to be a clear perception of the potential users that it solves the problem, that it's better, faster, cheaper than what I have at hand right now. Yeah. And so my prediction is that we will see in the future, in 5 or 10 years from now, or maybe in 3 years from now, many more blockchain inside solution. We won't talk too much about blockchain anymore, but about the actual product or service.
Yeah, that would also be the most fundamental thing I want to stress, in addition to what has been said and also in addition to what Bruce has mentioned. I think the most important thing both for anyone moving into the blockchain ecosystem is to realize that blockchain in a way is not a solution, and that was the problem with the hype. Saying that blockchain, whatever, is going to solve this particular problem is actually a myth and is a marketing gag. But what is important to realize is that blockchain offers an infrastructure. Blockchain is and represents an infrastructure on top of which these solutions and these these actual markets and use cases can be built. And that is what is also important to say here, and I 100% agree with what Oliver has said, that it's going to be the infrastructure underlaying the actual products that are coming up, the actual services that are coming up. And what makes this infrastructure so much more exciting for anyone being able and willing to take the time to dig into it is what Melanie has actually mentioned, that it offers the chance to decentralize again and to become self-sovereign. So it takes problem awareness to see why this infrastructure is so very much needed and so offering so much potential. But once you do, then things like the Berlin Blockchain Hub happen, because everybody gets excited and wants to dig deeper.
Yeah, good. On a good note. And Bruce?
For me, a successful blockchain project has a global community aligned to the values and goals that can outlive the founding team and extend the capabilities of the project on a global scale. It's all about people, and if we can get a global community rallying around this new technology, then it will be adopted just like the internet was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I think there's not much that I can add to the rest of the panel, but I think just like spoken from within my bubble of privacy, a bit of GDPR compliance, I really see that that there is actually many more projects seem to care or seem to start to care about privacy as like something very fundamental in their projects. Not just meeting the requirements, the compliance requirements, but really truly caring about what they're doing. And I can only hope that in this year, where we've seen much of that already, that this keeps developing and that keeps that we keep seeing more projects that see that as some of their core values.
Yeah. Privacy by design, basically. And it's a very good paper. You should read it on TechGDPR. So thank you very much, all panelists. We touched on topics that were important, and you can reach out to all of them individually on LinkedIn or on their websites, and follow them on Twitter for more insights, and also follow us on Twitter. So thank you very much. And this is the closing panel, and I have a few announcements as well. We will stream. Okay, so we are done downstairs. Hi. So we can see our friends are already joining. Yes, please. Yes, we are almost done. We are having a closing right now. And tomorrow you can log in online if you haven't taken your offline ticket till now, and for Spearfield, and day after tomorrow we have the Investors Day. So thank you very much for your time, everybody online and everybody who's joining now, and our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.